Hello everyone, this is Mitter Nuts and today we'll be continuing our beginner-friendly Road to OSCP video series. Today we'll be looking at another HackTheBox machine, that is DevOops. And DevOps is based on Linux and the difficulty is set as medium, so let's just get started. So first thing what I always do is I run an auto-recon scan, and if you guys don't know what auto-recon is a basic and like it's an enumeration tool, and it will do a Nmap scan first, like full TCP and quick TCP as well as top UDP Nmap scans, and based on the results over there it's going to do additional scans on the ports and services it finds open like on the previous Nmap scans. So it's going to do additional scans, it's going to give us some results. So it does 95% of the time it works, and sometimes you have to do things manually, and you have to run a full TCP slow scan so that you properly detect the open ports and services. So it's like always don't rely on it, but it is good to have tools, so I do recommend using this. And I'll be giving sudo as well because I'm gonna run this tool as root, because I'm gonna run the UDP scan inside, because I'm running the system as Kali over here. Okay, so I'll be giving Python 3 over here, and I'll be giving this particular tool location, that is wherever the autorecon.py file is present. We'll be giving the target IP address, that is 10.10.10.91 in the case of DevOps, and also I'll be giving the O switch, where I want to output the entire scan result as. So I did execute the scan, so I'm not going to do it again. So let's just look at the scan results. So first thing, obviously, I look at the full TCPNmap scan, and I see that there is port 22 open, that is running SSH, and there is port 5000 open, that is running HTTP, and it says version Gunicon 19. So obviously, first thing I just do is just check for Gunicon if there is any version vulnerability for the web server. So we do not find anything over here. Okay, so I don't think we will find. Yeah, so this is one thing. We looked at on search exploit, but we'll look at the web, on the web again on Google. Okay, so we do not find anything for now over here. We have these two ports open, and there are multiple different scan results for this, like Nmap scan, and this what web robots txt. I don't think that this thing is present as well. Okay, and yeah, so that's it. So I don't think there is anything useful in this particular scan result over here. So let's just look at the web browser, like web page. So 93, sorry, 91, and port 5000. So we come across this web page, says under construction. This is feed py. So probably this is a particular file. Let's just copy it, and we can paste it in our cherry tree. We can mention interesting files, and we can put feed py over here. Also, it mentions something like dev solita fi backend. Okay, so it's actually a link to some web page over here. Okay, so we do not find anything useful over here, and we have this image over here. Okay, so this basically is an image. Obviously, there is no link. I'm trying to click on it. It's an image. See if I try to drag it. Probably can just do as view image. So this is entirely an image, and there's nothing much useful over here. We'll probably look at view page source. Says like the same thing what was present earlier, and it says like feed is like the source is feed. So this particular thing is present. We do not have anything useful. So obviously next thing I run is GoBuster scan. So before that we'll probably locate common txt word list. So this is a word list which we'll be using, and if we do cat, so we'll be having multiple entries over here present, okay, like www1, 2. There are like around 4000 entries present over here. So what we'll do is first thing, we'll obviously run a GoBuster scan. So if you guys don't know what GoBuster is gonna do, we'll give a IP address, we'll give a port number, and then later on we are GoBuster will probably like check for www directory. Like since we are giving that word list, right? This entire word list, it will first check for www, and it will ask the server, is this particular directory or file present? Server will be like, hey, this particular file does not exist. And it will be like, okay, does this file or directory is present? So I'll be like, hey, you know what, this particular file is present and you have access to it. So like, okay, then it will be like, okay, I'll be giving www2. So we'll ask the server, is this particular file present? So they'll be like, hey, this file is present, but you do not have permissions to access it. So it'll give an access denied error. Okay, so this is how GoBuster is gonna analyze the response from the server, and it's gonna give us output, like which all files are actually present that way. So we'll run a GoBuster scan. Okay, so we'll be giving GoBuster, here's the GoBuster, yeah, directory, and then we'll be giving the use switch, giving HTTP, we're giving the directory that is 10.10.91. Also, we'll be giving the port number that is 5000. Because if you do not give the port number, it's going to manually check for the port 80. So if there's a non-standard port, please give it over here. And also the word list, which we had copied earlier, the comment txt, this entire 4000 word list. And also we'll be giving the extension switch, so that is like X, and we'll be giving PHP, we'll be giving PL, and also SH. And because since it's a Linux box, so we can give SH, TXT. Okay, so if it was probably a Windows machine, we can give ASP or ASPX as well, or bat.bat for batch files. Okay, so this is enough, and we can output it as GoBuster common extension txt that way. Okay, so you can run the scan and it will run, but I already did execute the scan, so I don't want to run it again. So let's just look at the scan results. So if we go and check the common txt with extension, so we got these two folders present. This we had already come across the the slash feed, okay, that image which was present, and we have this upload file present, upload directory or file present over here, the file. So let's just go and check out and see if there is something interesting in upload. So we do have something over here which says like test API upload a new file XML, something like that. And it says browse, and obviously you have to enter your so enter some file over here. So let's just go and create some exploit. Create directory, file test.txt, and let's just try to upload it. If you try to upload, it does not get uploaded, I guess, so it just errors out. So first thing, whenever there is an upload functionality, unless it mentions like you can upload an ASPX file, or you can upload a PHP file or something like that, always try and upload the content which is going to actually get uploaded successfully. So once you know the response that okay, this was successful, then obviously further we can try and modify that request and try to get that response which we got. Okay, so for now we are not getting any response, so let's just try and create an XML file, I guess, because it says that you need to create an XML file, it looks like, because it has few elements over here. So in order to create an XML file, obviously you can just try to do XML over here, but that is not going to work like .xml. You need to have the contents present over there. So let's just quickly go and just probably sample example, because you don't need to obviously know how to write XML files and everything. You can just try to get a sample over here. So when we come across this web page and there is a sample waiting over here, so we can just take this simple sample and try and paste it over here probably. Okay, so we add the space over here, remove this additional space. I don't know why it came for some reason. Okay, so what we'll do is we have this particular file over here. We can just remove this note, and we can probably just enter anything. So I'll just probably enter mutated nuts, and once you change it over here, change the bottom one as well, so mutated nuts. So another thing, I'll just change this txt to XML, because we'll get that color coding inside. Okay, so we have mutated nuts over here. I have entered this. So I have entered 2 from reminder, don't forget this week. Okay, so we have an XML file over here. So let's just try and upload it. And it's not going to accept it because it says internal server error. So for some reason, you need to enter this author, subject, content as well, the XML elements. So what we'll do is we'll just try and copy it and paste it over here. Okay, so then we'll take this, paste it over here itself. We'll take content, paste it over here. This is an additional line, we do not require it, so we can just delete it. Okay, we can mention the author as probably it's me itself, Mujra Nuts, and it says subject, so we'll probably enter HackTheBox. And then content, we can probably write, you can write any data over here, it does not matter. Okay, so we can write content as probably kindly subscribe, something like that. Okay, so we have this thing present, we have this file present. Let's just try and let's just try and upload it. So we have this test XML upload, and it says blog post, sorry, processed blog post, and it says author muted or not, subject hack the box, content kindly subscribe. Now what I want you all to see and notice is over here, there are two things over here. Firstly, we entered the entire XML file. Okay, we entered this thing, we entered this muted and nuts over here. Okay, but only author name was muted and nuts. So obviously it took this entry over here. I should have probably renamed it to something else. But okay, so this entry has come up, hack the box has come up, and kindly subscribe has come up. Okay, so this is one, then hack the box, kindly subscribe. Okay, so that means it was successfully passed in an XML parser. So basically it got processed, that file got processed in short. So you don't need to know much about it, but the file got processed and it actually gave us output of these things. It did not give us entries over here, right? It did not give, it gave us author, but it did not give the backslash or something. It's not reading the file entirely. Okay, so we have this particular thing over here, and it says, it comes to our upload file. Okay, I'm not sure, and it says kindly subscribe. URL for later reference is uploads, test XML. So let's just try and copy this as well. So before that, let's just take this, paste it, and it's uploads test EA. Okay, test XML. Okay, I put a comma over there. Okay. So if we see over here now, so this is the file which is present. Okay. So this is our XML file which is being displayed over here. So if you do page source, so this is what we are actually written, right? The actual file. So this means that this file has got processed over here. If you do view page source, see this is the actual file which has been processed. Okay, so that means XML has been successfully passed. So we'll probably look at some XML attacks which we can probably do over here. So we got this thing over here, uploads. So we got some path over here. Okay, some reason, we'll just copy it. Okay, and we also get a file path over here which says home, rusa, deploy, src. So what it looks like, obviously this is a very strong end over here. It mentions a part name of a user rusa, okay? Because if you know Linux, so you'll be having a home directory, then you'll have the username, then you obviously some different directories over here. So let's just copy that as well. Okay, and so we have the username Rusa. So probably this would be helpful later. So what we'll see is now we have an XML successfully uploaded. Now we'll try and do some XML attacks over here. Okay, so let's just close this quickly. Okay, and we can do XML injection. Okay, we can probably write payload. So we can go to this payload all the things on XXE injection. So that is external entity, XML external entity. So this is the one which we are looking for, and this is what I followed as well. Okay, so whenever I saw the XML file was successfully passed, so I tried this. So first it says like obviously there are few auto pawn tools as well, like auto exploitation tools. So I did not use this, so I don't think automatic exploitation is even allowed in OSCP. So let's just go and check out this detect the vulnerability thing. Okay, so it mentioned the and somewhat similar thing like the first line, and this is our books or something like that. So you can try and modify that itself. So what we'll do is we'll go behind. We'll probably just change this name to Nututorial itself, and we'll save the file. And before that, obviously you can go and try to set our proxy. Can go over here. So I've already set up my proxy and I'm listening in burp suite, so we can do that over here. You can just go to the default one is no proxy. You have to click on this. You have to end. This particular thing will already be present, this IP address and port. So just leave it as it is and check this thing. Use proxy source for all products. So whenever you're using HTTPS and any FTP, this through the proxy, so it will take this up. So just check this because it's useful for HTTPS as well. Okay. So now in burp suite as well, we go to options and we see that this thing is running. It's the same IP address which was present in the web browser. Okay, and we have the HTTP history over here. Okay, so just clear it for now. We do not require anything. Yes, and let's just try and upload that file again, test XML file. And if we upload it, so the file has already come. Okay, what? I don't think we save this file. Okay, just try uploading it again. Because now I change the name, right? So that means mutated, hack the box, kindly subscribe. Okay, so we have this thing, blog post successfully registered. So we'll just try to take this request. We have this response present over here, right? So let's just try and send it to repeater. So another thing about uploading a file, it does not mean that you every now and then press browse, go and upload manually. You can do it on burp suite. Since we have captured that request over here, proxy, like I had turned the interceptor off. Okay, so I turn the interceptor off over here, and I just require the proxy. I do not want to intercept anything and then modify and send it. So I prefer turning it off, taking the proxy over and forwarding to the repeater. So I forwarded it to the repeater, and now we have this contents present over here, right? So this is what we send. Let's just try and modify and check like test2 something like that and see what do we get. So we get over here test2, so this whole thing is proper and fine. So obviously now we have this test XML file. It's successfully processed over here. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll try and check out the payload, all the things. So it says detect the vulnerability first. So obviously we have to enter this doc type. Okay, it says example, and then it's gonna call this example over. So in short, what it mentions is what this particular code will do is, so once you enter this entire thing, it's gonna take this, it's gonna save this do over here to this example variable. Okay, the entity basically, but I'm just saying variable to understand better. So after that, it's gonna call that example entity over here or the variable. In short, when this thing is processed, this door will come up over your example. Okay, so this is how it's gonna work, and let's just try and see if this actually works. So let's just copy it and paste it over here. I think after this line. Okay, yeah, so after that, this thing user info thing started. So over here probably we can just mention something like payload worked, something like that. Okay, in the example. So what we do is we'll remove hack the box away, or we'll remove auto. We'll just remove auto. Let's leave hack the box. Okay, so it says like obviously you can enter it anywhere. It's not necessary that you have to enter in the second line itself. You can enter over here. So we'll probably have this example and example, copy it and paste it. So obviously another thing is you can mention any variable over entity over here, example or test or something. So let's just try and see if this works. So in short, if this will work, we saw this test2, right? So we have replaced this with and example. So and example should not be seen, and this payload work thing should come over here. Let's just try and see if this works. So it says that payload worked. So actually our payload worked, and that means this thing is vulnerable for XML and external entity. So we can add external files over there. Okay, so that thing particularly worked, and also I just checked for XML injection, remote code execution, but that did not work over here. I think that was disabled. Like you have access to some particular file, it mentioned file. Okay, we'll look into it later, but it was not. We could not execute it in short. So let's just try and see what we can do now. So that means we have this external entity payload working. So what we'll do is we'll just try and check further additional things what we can do. So it says exploiting XSE to retrieve files. So it's mentioned over here that file, etc password, the system one, right? So we have this entity test system file that way. So we can just try to take this entity file, system file, something like that. So we'll just try and copy this, and also we'll copy the system one, system command over here. And we have example, right? So we'll just try to take this and paste it over here. Okay, we'll try to paste it, and now again we'll try to send and see if we get something. And if we see, we get the entire etc password file over here in the example when we are calling it over here. And yeah, so this is what we get over here entirely, the auto. So we get the users list over here, so you can just copy it probably and paste it. And also another thing you can see is the user which we had seen, right? Obviously this particular user has been bashed as well. So in short, we got the etc password file. So that means we have LFI working, that is local file inclusion is working over here. Okay, so we have that present. Now what we'll do is we'll probably just check how are we going to get some additional files. So this is what I did initially, like I just, since we have etc password, we can probably just check out for some other things as well, probably just check out for host, and we get the host file as well of the target machine. Okay, so another thing, we have ruza over here, we have the username ruza. So one common thing I saw was, since SSH was already open over here, right? So I just guessed, this was my first guess, and this is how I did the box first time. So I just saw that Ruza is present over there, and obviously Ruza, if SSH is present, probably there'll be an .ssh hidden folder inside the Ruza, because that's the default folder. Okay, so if you mention over here, default SSH folder, so it'll be probably present in the home directly. Like just see, okay. So it mentions over here that the directory, if you, it looks like, the previous, just ignore whatever is mentioned over here. The default directory will be something like home, the username, that is Ruza, and then it is .ssh and then IDRSA. So this is the default directory. So let's just go and look at it first if this thing is present. So what we'll do is file, we'll just remove etc, we'll mention home over here instead of etc, home, and we'll mention the user Ruza, and also we'll mention .ssh, and we'll mention ID RSA. Okay, so we'll mention this particular thing and see if we get anything. And if we see, we actually get the RSA private key. Okay, and it's mentioned author and space over here. Another thing is, if you don't want author to continue in this particular file which you're entering it, so you can just enter space over here, because it says and example, right? So we can just enter space over here and see if it works. So see, this is getting it to the next line. So obviously it makes it easy for copy pasting. So let's just take it, copy it, probably just enter over here, create document, ID RSA, and paste this private key over. Another thing, the private key is not encrypted. So one thing is good, that we can just directly try and log in into the server, because this is not encrypted. We don't have to find the password for that. Okay, so using the private key, we can obviously get an SSH connection to Ruza. So this is how you do it one way to get the initial foothold or the user access. So there's another way to do it, but I'll just complete this entire box and then probably we'll look into it. Okay, so first thing, we found this IDRSA key, right? So now what we'll do is we just try and log in into the system as Ruza. So let's just go back to exploit folder where that IDRSA key is present. Okay, so cd workplace. Okay, so this is the IDRSA present, like key present over here. So if we try to run this, obviously it will give an error. I just want to show you all what error it would give. Just give the iSwitch, give the IDRSA, and then give the username, that is Ruza at 10.10.10.91. It will give us an error saying that permissions 0644 for IDRSA are too open. So please do not do, probably it will ask for password again. So do not do that. Obviously just try to do chmod and enter 600, because you do not have to give a lot of permissions over here. So if we give 600, that is, we'll be giving read and write permissions to only the first user. So we'll just mention chmod and we'll mention ID RSA. We'll change the permission. Now we'll try to enter, and we are successful. So we are in the system as Ruza. We can do mi, can do lsla, and we can check out multiple things present over here, directories, and obviously we can get our user txt file as well, because we are in the system as Ruza. and we have read permissions to the user txt file. Okay, so this is how we get access to the system. And another thing is, obviously you can try to check sudo l. This is the first thing I do. I check for sudo l if I get any information over here. I think there's nothing over here, and I'm not sure why it has been frozen. Okay, so for some reason it does not load up. I'm not sure. It does load up, but it takes some time, I guess. Okay, so another thing, still this thing loads up. Okay, so it says sudo password for user. We do not know the password, and they just enter something. It says try again. They'll just close it because it's not gonna work. So we do not have any no password commands. So what we'll do is just check for the architecture and kernel, and we have the architecture as 32. So this i6 86 is 32-bit. Okay, so obviously I don't want to try any kernel exploit. Probably there'll be a few, but I don't want to go that route. Okay, so another thing, obviously I'll just run linenum and linps. We do not find anything useful over there itself. So another thing, I just always try to manually enumerate the user folder, whichever folder we have access to. I just try to manually check if we find anything useful. Okay, so if we see there are multiple directories over here, and there's a bash history as well, which is readable. Okay, so we'll look into this a bit later because most of the boxes have bash history and they have a redirect to dev null. So whatever history comes, I think it goes to dev null, so it gets empty in short. So in this box it was not empty, but I don't want to go to this route. Let's just look what we can see. So we have multiple directories over here. We'll just probably look at this SSH directory as well. Okay, so we have this authorized key ID RSA, the public key, this is the private key, and the known host over here. Okay, so we'll just probably just go back, and since we already have access to this user. Okay, so we can just probably go and check out multiple directories over here. You guys can go and enumerate, but another thing is there is a work directory over here. So let's just go work. Sorry, cd work. Let's say it says like block feed, so you can go over there. Let's say, and we have few things mentioned over here, and it mentioned that there is a GitHub. There is a GitHub directory mentioned. So probably this and the name of the box as well. If you see, if you just type host name, so it's mentioned over here. It's GitHub or something like that. So probably there's a GitHub repository present over here. Okay, so it's probably trying to do a few changes and everything. So we can just use git commands over here, and if we see in our when we try to get some GitHub files, we do a git clone, right? So git is a tool which is installed in Kali. So we are using the clone command over there. So we can use multiple commands. Another thing what I came across this box was, so if we obviously look at the file that is the etc password file, sorry, just cat it over here, etc password. Okay, and we see that we have this user git as well over here. Okay, and if we do a lin piece or lin enum, so it actually lists out that possible user login is this thing git over here. Okay, so let's just go back, cd. So now we have come to the home directory, and if we see, we have this git user as well over here. Okay, so let's just go to cd git, and there is nothing useful over here. There's a SSH directory. So if you want to probably log in as git user, but we do not have read access over here because we fall in the other group. We do not have we do not have access over here. Okay, so what we'll do is there is if we do linps, I think it shows that git can be accessible. So let's just try and do SSH git and localhost, and we are in the system as git over here. So this is where I tried and I wasted some time over here. I was trying to manually enumerate things. I thought that we had to escalate to the user git and then try to find something, but this was not the way. And I'm just saying, like, in short, if user didn't have to enter any password. Okay, so if we go git over here to this directory, Now if we go to this SSH directory, so there's this authorized keys thing present. So if you try to cat it, so it mentions Ruza at OS boxes. So that means Ruza is the user which is there. So it's already present over here, the key. So that's why probably it enters. You don't have to enter anything. So you can probably just, sorry, this is where I got the hint that, Ruza can probably get access to this Git user over here. Okay, so that's why I think it's public key or something I mentioned. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll just go back because this is not the way of getting the root access. So sudo ll, so there's nothing much useful. We can learn linps and linenum. We do not find anything. So what we'll do is we'll just go and go to the user git. Sorry. Okay, my bad. Okay. Let's just go to work directory, cd work, and then cd block feed, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so we are actually, this is a user git. So let's just get back, go to work, cd ruza, cd work, let's say cd block feed, let's say, and then later on we see there's multiple things present over here, and it's at gunnygon.sh. So what we can do is we can just use git over here, and it shows us the few commands which we can probably use. So we can just check for commit log. So in GitHub, commit is basically the changes what you do. So whenever you upload a repository or something, right? So if you did few changes in your system, so obviously you're gonna code in a system, right? So suppose this user Ruza tried to code into the system. She created some documents or something, and after that, there were few changes done over there. Okay, like the version 2, version 3, that way. So now you want to have that in the repository as well, your GitHub repository. You want to save that as well. So you probably will do commit, and it will show us in commit. So that's like the changes done, change log basically. So what we'll do is we can do git and log, and it says that there are multiple commits over here which are done, and the changes also mentioned like initial commit, add key for feed integration from enterprise background, something like that, backend, sorry. And it mentioned Gunnican startup script, something like that. Okay, so it says initial commit. So yeah, so what we can do is another thing. So this was also new for me. You have this commit files over here. You can just try and view what were the changes. Okay, so you can do a git and show and probably enter this particular commit code, and we get this information over. It says initial commit diff, something like that. Nothing useful over here. Okay, another thing what I want to show you all is that if I run that command now, the git show, so it says like not a git repository or any parent mount home. So it's, in short, it says that you have to be present near that git repository. So that's why you go to block feed and now try to run this command. Okay, so you have to be present inside the repository that way. So let's just do git log again, and we see that there is like add key for feed integration enterprise backend. So you can copy this particular thing, and we can try to do a git show and that particular commit ID. And we have a RSA private key over here. So let's just take and copy paste it. Okay, and just notice this plus 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 sign over here. Okay, you guys have to remove this sign just in case. So we'll probably just enter, create a new folder that is, sorry, new file that is RSA1 probably. You can enter RSA1 and paste this particular thing, and obviously you have to probably manually delete it. I think you can write a script as well for that, but let's just manually do it now. Okay, so we deleted the plus 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 signs over there, and if we see that it says like authenticate, or credentials or something. So whenever GitHub has to connect like to your repository or something, you have to provide a private key. Okay, so that it is authorized connect or commit that way. So that's why this particular key is required. So in short, there was a add key thing, and we found one key over here. Okay, So then later on, if we look closely, it says reverted accidental commit with proper key. So there's another key script over here. So let's just look at that as well. And if we do git show, we have this another commit over here, and it says like this old key was removed, probably the first one which we saw, and we had entered a, probably entered a new key. So if you have to scroll down, okay, just place this arrow keys and it'll, you have to scroll down over here. Okay, so that means this thing was done, and so this is the new key which is present. So let's just take that, probably you can probably copy paste it. So probably look at the first line, I guess. Create ID RSA2. Okay, so we can remove the plus signing in. Okay, so obviously you have to enter that first and second lines over here, the RSA private key thing, because that is missing, right? Okay, so actually it was present here, but I did not add it, so my bad. Let's enter this particular RSA thing. Okay, so we have this begin RSA, end RSA. We have two keys present. So if you guys look closely over here, it mentioned OEE, I mentioned ER0. Like both keys are different, right? So even if we mention see over here OGIBA something, and it mentioned here OPKABA something like that. Okay, so both the keys are different in short. So let's just go back to our box, and it says that this key was probably deleted and the new key was sent. So since we have a key over here, we can just try and use it with different users, especially root. So I'll just open another terminal over here. First, probably we'll just give the permissions, that is chmod 600 for ID RSA1 and same for RSA2. So we give chmod 600 for both. Okay, now we'll try to log in into the system as root, and let's just see if we get something. ID RSA1. Okay, we can give 2 first, just to show you all that if it works or no. Root 10.10.10.91. Okay. And it did not work because it's asking us for a password. Okay, so if we do ID RSA1 over here, and it did work, and obviously that was the key for the root, so that's why this user over here, he tried to remove the old key which belonged to root, and he added the new key over here. So this key is actually IDRSA2, right? And the key which we saw first was IDRSA1. So IDRSA1 did work because the user had initially added this key, then probably that DevOps engineer, he probably realized, or she, Ruza, realized that, oh, that is a roots key, so I need to add it with some other key. So created some other authentication and added this particular second key, that is IDRSA2. Okay, so that's how we got root access over here. You can probably just go to our root directory and we can get our root flag over here. Okay, so this is how the box was done. Obviously this GitHub thing was as well new to me, and trying these keys out. So this key, the new key over here, the IDRSA2, if you do a linp search, it gives some authentication credential, that link it will mention, like it will actually show you the path. So you probably get this key before coming over here itself. So there's another way, obviously, get log, you can do git log, and you can get the credential information and something like that. And I know this box is DevOps, like DevOps is basically, it's on the other side of the TJNL list, that is harder than OSCP, and but probably a good practice. But I'm actually following the list, user difficulty wise. So I'm doing it that way. I don't mind that if that box is harder or not, because obviously it's good to learn new things. And this box also, I got to learn about this new GitHub commit changes and everything. I was well aware about GitHub, using how it works, repository purge and everything, but not about these changes over here. Okay, so this is how the box was done. We got root access. Now we'll look at another way how we can do the box. So if we go to our burp suite, so we have this ID RSA file present, right? So what we'll do is we'll just go and check out. So this backslashes, I guess, to come out, to the directory. So what we need to do is, we saw a feed py file right earlier. So we'll just try to get that. So obviously we can just enter feed py over here. I don't think that will work. So it shows blank or something like that. So just remove these things and just enter send. So we finally got that feed py file. So in short, we're trying to reverse engineer, like trying to get this particular file and try to see something. So if we get this, so if we see first, when we entered only the IP address, let's just enter only this thing, we come across this under construction page, okay? So that means this is that index HTML file which we are coming across, okay? And if it's calling something as exercise, okay. Then later on it's coming like probably a function exercise, okay. So then later on it's like once we go to feed, it's calling another function that is fake feed. So if we go to, sorry, that's a particular snapshot, that is dev solita snapshot or something like that. So if we go over here and enter feed, we come across this snapshot. Okay, so then later on there's another thing which is called new post over here. Okay, so let's just go into this new post thing and see if we get something. New post. It says method not allowed. This method is not allowed for the requested URL. And if we see, it says methods post only. And if it's probably new post function it's calling, and it says to do proper save to data page. This is for testing purpose, and it says it's using pickle stir over here. Okay, so it's using pickle loads, something like that. So in short, if you see, actually first when I try to the Gunicon, right? So when I do Gunicon 1971 exploit, which we saw in our search result over here. So first, initially, I had come across this Gunicon web page and I tried to check out multiple things, and I find some article over here which was like using YAML file, but I was not very successful. With it was actually some exploit about serialization and deserialization in Python. So I was not very successful in doing it because the POC was for YML file and we had an XML file, so I was not able to do it properly. But later on, if you see, if there's pickle stir being used, right? So URL safe, request data, okay, pickle loads or something. So what we'll do is we'll just try and check for Python pickle exploit. So if you just enter this, we come across this Dan Lewis Q web page, and it's mentioned something about exploiting the vulnerability of pickle stir. Sorry, of pickle. So it says in Python, if you guys can go and read how it does serialization and deserialization. So later on, let's just go forward and see what's wrong with pickle over here, pickle library, since it's using it, right? We can literally see it over here. It says pickle loads and everything. Okay, so what it's doing is, it's like an example. So it gives an example. So let's just try and take this, because we'll try and exploit this particular vulnerability using this example. So let's just take it. So let's just go and create a file, that is probably enter pickle and you enter py, paste it, and it says like in short it's going to do some OS command, OS command execution over here, and we can probably just change this to ping and see. You can enter the IP address as a 10.10.14.21, and we can give the count over here as 2. Okay, and probably it's like pickle data, it's going to do pickle dumps on this particular class over here, and then later on it's going to open this particular backup data file, and with read permissions, I guess, sorry, write permissions, and then later on it's going to obviously give that variable as file, and file write. So then it's going to write this pickle data, like whatever data was come over here, like in short this particular thing, it will write over here inside this. So let's just see inside this inside this file, sorry, backup data. So let's just create this backup data file for now, and let's see what happens. We do not actually require that, but let's just see what happens. Let's just try and run our pickle file, and if we see, we can do python pickle.py, and it says that no attribute dumps over here. So the reason for this is because we are calling pickle py, and over here it's mentioning like import pickle. So in short, it's trying to call this pickle file itself. So it's trying to get this. It's not going to get the module. So just if you want, you just try and rename this file. That's how it's gonna work. So just mention as test pickle, something like that, and then now try to run it with test pickle. Test pickle.py. So it actually executed, but obviously we did not get any output. Let's just go and backup data and see we get some output over here. Okay. So this is how we can do it one way. So this is the same output. Let's just see if we can try and modify the script further. I know it may be a little extra like to modify the entire script, but what we'll do is we'll just remove this with open. We'll just try and print pickle data. So we'll do print and we'll do pickle data. That's it. So we'll just do this and we'll see if we get something. Okay, no attributes. We'll just delete. Why did this file get created again? I'm not sure. Okay, so I'm not sure why it did not execute. Okay, sorry, we are saving it in the pickle file again. My bad. We'll just paste it, open this, replace it into test pickle, and try to run this. So if we run this, we get the entire same commands as well again over here. Okay, so we'll just do that. So we got that. Obviously, but now what we are trying to do is if we look at the code over here in burp suite, I know it's a little bit extra like to understand, but it's a good thing to know about things. So it's mentioned that whatever data you get with post, okay, you can probably it's gonna base 64 decode it and then it's gonna run it in short. Okay, so that's why it's mentioned base 64 decode over here and it's gonna run it with this pickle library, pickle loads, pickle star. Okay, so it's gonna in short load our data whatever we are gonna send as post. So what we'll do is we'll just go to that particular, earlier we just saw that we went to this particular new post, right? So let's just load it again. If we go to proxy, we have this new post over here. Let's just send it to repeater. And obviously if we send, we'll get some error method not allowed, something like that. So obviously because the method over here is get, so we require a post method which is present in that earlier file, right, which we seen. So let's just try with that. We'll do post. Let's just send it. So it says something like internal server error. Probably it's expecting some data over here. So another thing, obviously we have that file. You have to, it's base 64 decode. So let's just try to base 64 encode it and then particularly send the file. So for that, probably you'll just run the file first and then do base 64 on that. So we get this information. Let's just copy it and later on paste it to burp. Not over here, but to this new post thing because you have to send a post data in short. So we have this particular thing over here. Okay, did not get this equal to sign. Let's just take it. Copy selection. Okay, and obviously we'll start our TCP dump over here. We'll just sudo TCP dump I done 0 ICMP. I switched to which port is our interface, sorry, which is our interface, and that is tunnel 0, that is HackTheBox VPN, and ICMP just to get ping packets. So TCP is like Wireshark is going to sniff packets which are coming into your attack machine and it's going out that way. So let's just run that. Okay, wrong password. Okay, so we are listening to it. So we have this base 64 thing and the command what we had entered was probably this ping command, right? So let's just try and send it. And it says waiting, it says internal server error over here. And if we see over here, we already have our ping request which is coming from the target machine over that .10.10.91. So that means remote command execution is successful. Obviously, what we can do is another thing, we can probably just write a Python reverse shell or something like that, and we can see if we get a shell over here. So we can just go to Python. Or probably we can just add this which command, like to see if this actually Python file exists or no. But I'm sure that obviously Python it does exist. So you can do that and try to get this shell test monkey. Okay, let's just copy this entire thing and paste it over here. Another thing is that since there are multiple, obviously you have to enter few codes over here. So let's just enter 3 codes at first, because obviously this enter the entire data, because there are like double codes over here as well. So let's just enter that and enter over here as well. Always be careful with all these codes and all, because sometimes it may not work. Let's just modify IP address, that is 10.14.21, and port, we'll just enter 4444. So we enter the Python reverse shell over here, and then now we'll again execute this particular test py pickle and with base64. And obviously we'll just copy it and paste it to our burp suite. Obviously there are like these lines over here, I guess, so we can just remove this. Okay, and let's just try and send it. Before that, obviously we'll start our netcat listener and VLP 4444. Okay, and we'll send it, and we get our shell over here. If you do mi, we are in the system as Rusa. So this is how it is done. We're using this pickle library, because there's some Python deserialization error over there. You can refer that this web page over here, what's wrong, and you can use this particular exploit over here. So this was the box, and do like the video if you guys liked it, and do subscribe to my channel for more upcoming videos, and thanks a lot.